right, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Janna from Melt Studios. Janna, floor is all yours.
Thank you. Hi. I'm going to go up on this stage that has lights, and I already tested, so I'm not going to fall through. And if you're bored, I'll dance, maybe. We'll do full screen on the... It's coming. So while that's coming, I will introduce myself. So my name is Janna DeVylder from Meld Studios. We are based in Sydney, Australia. We also have a studio in Melbourne as well. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how you can be creating exceptional customer and service experiences. And I guess before I begin, I just would like to say that I'm wearing 3 different hats as I'm standing up here talking to you. The first one is I'm talking to you as a business owner. So I started my company with my 2 partners 8 years ago, and having to understand who we're creating a service for, who our customers were, and then designing how we actually work as a business has been a huge part of why we've been able to grow and have success. So business hat, number 1 hat. Number 2 hat is as a designer. So my background is actually in psychology and anthropology. So it's really around how do people think, what do people need, how do they make decisions, how do they feel. And so using that skill set in my designs has actually made my designs better. It helps the things that I do when I'm working with developers or engineers or whomever I'm working in my multidisciplinary teams, being able to bring that mindset of who is the customer and who are we designing for, the people, whether that's citizens, students, workers, that can be anybody. It's not just people who give you money. It's the people who work in your companies and the people who are receiving what you're giving. So as a designer, it's been really important in my career. And the third hat that I'm wearing today is I'm a human. You're all human. We are all here making things that we're putting out into the world. Other people have to use and engage with the things that you're putting out there. And just because you think it's a good idea doesn't mean it's the right thing for people. And so we have to make sure that what we're doing is not just for us, it's also for them. So 3 hats. I'm going to check this clicker. So with that in mind, it's really important for us to recognize that every product and every service has an experience. And so we are all working in organizations, whether it's your own, whether it's somebody else's, and you're making things for other people. Somebody's going to have an experience using that, whether that's a physical product, a bottle, or it's a service where I'm coming up and I'm talking to somebody, or it's a chair, anything, everything has an experience. And so the question I have for you is, are you deliberately designing for those things? Or are you leaving it to chance? It's an important thing to be thinking about, because I suspect that if I asked all of you, are you thinking about the customer, you probably would say yes. And so the thing that I want to walk you through is, what does it actually mean to deliberately design for experience? So I'm going to start with a story, and this may be a story that you're familiar with, but it's a favorite because I think it's one that really brings the point home. So GE, General Electric, they do lots of things as an organization, but a few years ago they actually built a new series of MRI machines. Has anybody here had an MRI before? Yeah? Like, you come into the tube and you can't move, and it's so loud. It's just, you feel like something's about to crush on you, but you can't move. So it's a very wonderful feeling. Don't move, and it's only going to be 2 minutes, and then 10 minutes later, you're waiting. They're very important machines because they can see deep inside you and tell your medical team what's going on inside you. That's a very medically descriptive experience of what an MRI machine is. I'm obviously not a medical technician. But the point is they built an MRI. And this engineer, one of the lead engineer designers on the machine, was so excited. You know, it was top of the line, state of the art, and it was now out in the marketplace. So this gentleman actually went to a hospital because he was going to see for the first time, seeing this machine used live in a hospital setting. And so he's inside the room with the technician, and he starts to see the parents and a child walking down the hallway. The child's super nervous, the parents are super nervous. He can see this from as they're walking. The technician sees this as well and starts to go to the phone. And so he asks, "Why are you going to the phone?" She said, "Oh, I can already see that I'm going to need sedation. I'm going to need to put the child to sleep so that the child won't move because I can see already that the child is nervous." And so he's thinking, what? You have to put them to sleep so that they'll actually stay in the machine? And she said, if I don't do that, then her session is going to take me 2 or 3 times as long as it might take, and then that means the next person's going to be late, and the next person's going to be late, and that means I can't process as many people as I need to. He was horrified. The engineer was horrified. Here he was, so proud. He'd made this machine that was, you know, state of the art, was already starting to win awards for technical excellence. But at the end of the day, it actually wasn't hitting the mark with who needed to use it, which was the parents in the situation, the children in the situation, the technicians in the situation, the hospital in the situation. So he felt like, actually, we haven't succeeded with this product. We focused so much on the product that we didn't think about the experience of it. And so the question then becomes, how do you make it easier for healthcare workers who have to actually take people through a process to actually, and take children, which are even more complicated to take through this process, how do you make it easier for them? And then how could you possibly make the MRI experience actually pleasant rather than terrifying? And you might think, you can't. But you can. So what he did is he went back and he said, I need to better understand children. I need to better understand who they are, how they engage, what makes them happy, what makes them, where are they in sort of their mindset and their life stage. So he went to preschools and he observed children and he saw how they engage with each other, how they engage with adults. He then talked to healthcare professionals to better understand, tell me about, you know, children who might need to be going through a process where they need an MRI, what kinds of situations, what kinds of illness or physical things are going on that might need them to do that. Wanting to better understand child development, you know, having a child who's 4 years old go through this process versus a 15-year-old is a very different thing. So what are all of the factors in child development that might help me better understand children and who I'm designing for? And this is what they came up with. They used a human-centered design process to generate concepts and to come up with this. Now, you might look at this and say, it's the same machine, and they just put some stickers on it, but it's actually much more. They have a whole series of different rooms that they can create with different themes. So they can do the farm. My favorite one is the spaceship. And so basically what they do is, well before they're even in the room, when the doctor says, you need to get an MRI, they're already starting the experience. So this is days before they're even in the room. And they're given a story. And they're told, you are a character in this story. You are about to go in a spaceship. Now, when you go in the room, you have to be ready because you are the astronaut, and you're going to be getting on this space, what is that called? Rocket? It's a rocket. Let's call it a rocket instead of me gesticulating what it is. So This is days before. So then the day of, they're coming in and they're thinking, I'm going on a spaceship. I am an astronaut and I'm about to go on this thing. And the parents are feeling like, okay, my kid's going on a spaceship. This is feeling good. This is feeling good. The technician then becomes part of the story as well. So they're not just somebody who's pushing buttons and connecting you in. They're getting the astronaut ready to go in the rocket and to go up. And so the thing is that when you go in and you hear these loud noises, the technician would say to them, okay, when we're about to take off, you're going to hear a loud boom. And the kid's like, okay, I'm going to hear a loud boom. So now when the kid hears the boom, it's not, what in the world is that? It's, okay, we're taking off. We're going. We're ready to go. And I think the thing that I love about this quote from a parent is that it says, you don't really think about the fact that you're doing a procedure. It's very, very welcoming and very whimsical. And so here's the thing. This is good for customers. If you think about customers, and I always use the air quotes for customers because it's whoever's receiving the service or the product. For children, it made it into an adventure. It decreased their stress. It increased their trust. And there's an increase in expectations. So it was not such a, oh my God, this is going to be a terrible thing. It's a thing I need to go through, but it's actually quite pleasant. And for parents, because parents are in this equation as well, right? They are your customer as well. It's calmer for them. It's more child-friendly. They feel a decreased need to have to force children, because if you've ever had children that you've had to hold down to get a shot or to get a procedure, it's the worst feeling in the world, and you don't want to put parents through that if you don't need to. It's a decrease in stress for the parents as well, and it's an increase in trust in the process. But even more important, if you are money-driven and outcome and value-driven, it's good business. This is not just about making people feel happy and feel good, and it's not just around, oh, customers will rate me and will give me a good NPS score. This is good business for you as well. For GE, the people who were making the machine and having to sell it for them, they created a product and a service package that they could differentiate themselves in the marketplace immediately. They weren't just selling an MRI machine anymore. They were selling a whole end-to-end experience that would make sure that if you, hospital, buy our machines, when you go out into the world and say, come to my hospital for this procedure, people are going to choose your hospital over the hospital that doesn't have this, right? So for GE, it's good business. They have something to differentiate themselves as well. Increases their sales, increase their brand standing. Here's somebody who's actually thinking more broadly about the experience. And it's a decrease in technical excellence, missing the human mark. This is a really important point. I'm not standing up here today saying that expertise needs to go out the door. You may be very expert in what you do. What using human-centered design will do for you and designing for experience will make sure that it's actually hitting the mark. It's not taking away your years and years of very important and hard-earned experience. For the hospital, differentiates for them. It decreases the amount of time it takes per procedure, so they can actually get through more children, right? Like, that's good business, right? It's more efficient. Everybody loves the efficient word. Designing for experience can actually create efficiency for you. And it increases the employee satisfaction, so the hospital hires people who work for them. And when people feel that they can't do their job well because you haven't given them the right environment to do it, they don't stay very long, or if they stay, they're very sour and dissatisfied. So as a hospital, you're actually giving your employees a really great experience to have to go through this process. And then to work there, you don't have to sedate children as much anymore. It decreases the stress. You're not having to deal with stressed parents and stressed children. So all of this to say, everything that you're doing, if you really start to isolate all of the different parties that can win from this, it really adds up quite quickly. And so This all happened after the fact. They'd already made the machine. But if you can imagine if we could have rolled back time and he had done all of that research at the very beginning, imagine if he had better understood the people and the roles that they were playing and the dynamics in that environment and what was really going to be happening in that environment instead of focusing just on the machine. They may have came out the door right away into the marketplace with this proposition rather than later. So the question is, when do you want to do this? Do you want to do it later, when you find out potentially the hard way out in the marketplace, or do you want to do it at the beginning? But also, when I think about the end-to-end experience, the actual MRI piece of getting in the machine is one part of a journey, right? The MRI is not the whole experience. The MRI is one part of it. And so just remember that when you're creating a product, there's a whole experience that goes around that as well. And so what I want to talk to you about today is 3 ways that you can create exceptional experiences for your customers. So number 1 is around being deliberate. You just have to choose to do that. You have to consciously decide that that's what you're going to do. Number 2 is you have to understand and engage the people that you're designing for. And this is very critical. Work with the people that you're designing for. You don't design at them, design with them. It's good business for you, I promise you. And 3 is to use a service framework, which I'll walk you through, which is really around thinking about the end-to-end experience, that you're thinking holistically about that whole experience. So let's go through these. So being deliberate. So when we say you're deciding to put your customer and delivery experience, so when I say delivery experience, I'm meaning your company and the people working in your company, what experience do they have in delivering service or experience? Putting that at the heart of where your company, it becomes a part of your value and who you are. So a lot of times you'll hear about customer experience and sort of these maturity models around how mature is your organization when it comes to customer experience. And it's just a way to be thinking about, at the bottom, we talk about customer experience and we say that we're interested in it and we can philosophically agree. Did that sound like a right? Philosophically, yes, that's a better word. Agree that it makes sense, but we're not putting time or energy or any kind of money towards actually doing that. The second one is you have actually invested a little bit in this. You start to say customer experience, CX is important, and we start to create some processes in the way that we work inside our companies that actually bring that to life. Step 3 is committed. So it's critical. Your executives are saying, it has to be involved, and we want the project teams to be using this as a process and as a way of engagement. Step 4 is engaged. Customer experience is now not just playing in the spaces of projects. Customer experience is playing in the realm of strategy, right? And so you're using it as a strategic tool to say, where are we going as a business? Not just what's the experience of using our chair or our web platform. And so it's part of your organizational strategy. And the top one is embedded. So it's part of everything that you do. You no longer have to actually say, this is the customer experience team. It's we all are thinking about customer experience, and we've integrated it into the way that we work, in the way that we actually make our strategy, and it's actually part of our core story. So your ways of working are impacted. So it's human-centered problem solving. It's the way that you figure out what are you solving for. Every day you're solving problems and figuring things out in your work. The question is, are you solving a human need, or are you solving for a business need? And ways of positioning, it becomes ways that you actually can say out to the world, how we create our products, what they mean to us, and what your customers actually mean to you. So the second step is either the build, redesign of, or the improvement of your product or service. And the thing is that you do this with the people that you're designing for. You may have a product or a service out in the marketplace right now, and you might think, oh, well, we didn't make our product or service in this way, so it's too late for us. No, 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 no. It's never too late. It's never too late. So part of the things that I'm talking to you about can be even the little improvements that you need to be making can be made with the people you're designing for, all the way up to you have a new business idea. How are you starting to get that insight? And so just to quickly go through, when we talk about the process of design is different than the object of design, right? So the object of design could be a chair, a web platform, it could be a conversation. But this is the process that you go through, which is very human-centered, which is we always start with understanding. And it's not just about getting some qualitative data around how many people are visiting our site. It's trying to understand why. What are they trying to do? Who are the people? Who are our customers? Do you actually really know your customers? And not just what their preferences are, but how they're living. What are they doing? How does what you're making fit into their life rather than the other way around? Exploring is where we then generate, oops. I just need to try this once because I learned that this is something I can do. Yeah, see? Okay. I won't do it anymore, but if you want it again, just tell me and I'll try again. It's cool, right? Yeah, okay, thank you. It's better than the red laser dot, like somebody's about to shoot you, so that's better. Anyway, exploring is where we're actually generating ideas. So many times we go from problem, solution. There's a problem, here's a solution. In exploring, we're generating a lot of ideas. And if you can, you're actually generating ideas with your customers. Bring them around the table. Say, we're trying to figure out a different way to make a chair. Bring them into the room. Actually generate ideas with them. It doesn't mean that you're going to be promising them that whatever comes out of this session is going to be built. A lot of companies get really nervous and they say, but what if they come up with ideas that we don't like or that are impossible to make and we don't want to do it? It's okay. Like everybody has ideas all of the time and it's not a promise to generate ideas. It's not promising anything. It can be quite safe. We're also creating prototypes, testing all of the things that you probably heard about already in different sessions throughout Magic. It's around doing that with the people, testing early, often. It's really critical and it increases your confidence and it decreases the risk that you're getting to the right spot. And articulating and realizing are just detailing out that design and bringing that to life. And people are involved, the people that you're designing with are involved at each stage. And there's different depths of engagement that you can have with your customers. A lot of the times, unfortunately, we're designing at people. We have really clever ideas, we make some great things, we put it out in the world, and then we say, why don't you like it? You said you needed this, I made it, why don't you like it? Well, maybe there's something going on where we just haven't really understood what we're solving for. The designing for is, I may gather some information and I may use the insight that I've learned about you, and then I give it back to you. And the designing with is, we're arm in arm in partnership with our customers and we're actually building something. Now, I don't have judgments about how far right you need to go. In some instances, it's really hard to go all the way over here to designing with. A lot of large organizations are trying to create ways to do more of the designing with because they're actually starting to see that that's going to be a differentiator for them. And it's a story that they can tell if they're further to the right. So you're going to start seeing in the next couple of years more and more large organizations trying to be designing with because they're starting to be really good at the designing for, and they need to take it up a level. So The minimum things that you need to do, every one of you, no matter where you are, no matter if you say, but I don't have budget and I don't have time. You don't need budget. You need a little time, but it's the time that you use right now is going to save you lots of heartache later, which is gather with. So this is going out. If you're making a product that's going to be used in a particular space, so it's going to be used in a work environment, or it's going to be used at home, or it's going to be used in a public space, you better understand those spaces. You go out there, feel it, see it, and not just you, everybody that you work with needs to understand where your things are sitting. And that's getting that deep insight and bringing it back in and really making sure that you're really understanding who they are and what you're solving for. Generate with, and this is creating those ideas with them, evaluating. It can be as simple as you've sketched out literally on a napkin an idea and you're putting it in front of a customer and you're talking about it. It can be as simple as that. It could be a Lego sculpture. It could be a full-blown prototype if you've built a prototype of your website or your app. The idea is that you're making something that's more tangible that people can actually talk to. And the more real it gets, the more specific your feedback will be. And confirm with is once you've built the thing, you're going back. Because once something is live, it's not over, right? You all know, like, you're having to tweak your businesses constantly, and it's not just the product that needs to change, it's the service, or what time do I send the email, and do I send it here or now, and do I use thank you, or do I say thanks? Like, is it blue or pink? Like, I don't know. Like, you're constantly testing those things, and there's ways that you can test those things live because they're safe to, so you do, A/B testing and things like that, but some things you really need to talk to people with. So 3 is designing a service. And when you design a service, you're designing for the customer and for your organization. So let me show you what I mean. So sometimes when we say the word service, people think that we're saying customer service. So it's a call center, or if I need help, who do I call? Service is so much more than that. Support is a part of service, but it's not everything. And so I'm here to tell you that a service is a thing to design just as much as the chair, just as much as a conversation, just as much as your website, just as much as your app. It needs to be designed. So this is a little framework that I've been working on. It's still in progress, but I wanted to share with you just as a way to think about it. And so let me just go ahead a little bit. You know those flip books where if I flip the top part, it's a different head, and the middle part is a different thing, and the bottom thing, and whatever random combination I pick makes a new thing? That's what I'm kind of playing with this, just as a way to think through the service, is that the top part, you could almost imagine, has things that you can flip up. And what it is the top part is really around what your customer is experiencing. How do they know about your product or service? How do they evaluate that it's right for them? Some of this you could even think about as your conversion funnel, right? How do they acquire it? How do they actually get it? Do I ask for it? Do I have to pay you for it? Do I need to apply for it? Now that I have it, how do I use it? And what does use actually mean? A lot of times we focus just on use. So when we focus on the MRI, we're thinking about just how do I turn it on, but I'm not thinking about all of the other parts around it. So part of it is use is one part of the service. And ask, what if I need some help? What if I don't get it? What if this is a service that I'm going to be using for a long time? If I'm just using something once, like if I go to a restaurant, that's one time, right? That's a one-time use. I don't take anything after I'm done except my memories and full belly, hopefully, and not being sick. But what if I'm in that moment and I need help and I'm not getting what I need? What do I do? In a restaurant, I would ask the waiter or speak to the manager because I'm really upset. Change. What if I need to change something? What if I need to upgrade it? Or what if I need to downgrade it? Or what if I want to have more or less of something? And then how do I end? What's that end experience of your product or service? There's a really great book that a friend of mine just wrote around called Ends, which is all around designing for the ending experiences, which I highly recommend. But the bottom part is you as a business, your organization. How are you positioning your product or service? How are you propositioning it? How are you provisioning it, giving it? How are you delivering it? What role? Who has to be there? Is there something physical incorporated or not? How are you giving support? Phone calls, chats, none. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to help them help themselves. How do I actually improve? What are we doing internally to learn and understand and actually make our service better? And then how do we offboard and get people gracefully through? So here's just some examples around when you're acquiring. So when you're thinking about your service and the end-to-end thing, it could be that they have to buy it, or they have to subscribe to it, or they have to apply to it. And maybe then for you, from an apply point of view, you need to have an application process. You need to have a way to review applications. You have to have a way to make decisions about those applications. People have to, inside your business, your employees then have to do that. How do you make it easy for them? What do you need to do for them as well? Design for yourself. That's been one of my main things with having my own business, is that I'm creating a place where I want to work. Yes, I need to make money because I need to survive. However, I'm making my own environment that I want to work in, right? A lot of us are trying to do that. So think about your employees as well and make where you work a great place. Sometimes people need to ask for it. Can I please have that? Sometimes they just get it. So if you think about in Australia, we have Medicare. When you're born, you just are given Medicare, and so that's what you get. So there's no asking for it, you just get it. And sometimes you have to use something. Sometimes you're forcefully given something. There's a lot of times, through government, taxes. Like, we have to do taxes. I didn't ask for that. I'm told to do that. But each of these choices changes the experience of your product, the experience of your service. So these are things, the reason I like the idea of the flip model is it gives you a little bit of freedom to say, well, what if it was this? How would that change the experience? I'll be sharing these slides later, so you can get to these little things. But I just walked through those things. I just did one as an example, Evernote. Does anybody use Evernote anymore? I'm slowly kind of going away from it, but I can't quite let go. I don't know yet what to do. I'm in this middle ground. Why? Oh, is somebody here from Evernote? Let's have coffee. No. If we have time, I'll answer that question. So how do people know about it? Through social media. Then Evernote has to make case studies. They have to convince you that this is right for you. They give you plans around, this is the free model, this is the paid model, this is the premium model. How do you acquire it? You sign up. How do you use it? You download, and then you add content. But the thing about use is that I need to give you that platform to do that. I need to give you options to do that. But there's also things that I can be doing to make use better. So Evernote sends me emails quite often to give me hints and tips around how I could be better using Evernote, which is actually quite useful because I go, oh, I never thought about that. So once I have the product or the service, they're trying to make sure that I'm getting the most out of it, because so easily I can just say, no thanks, I'm going to go now. how do I upgrade? What if I want to go to a business plan? What if I need more people to come in? What if I need enough, I don't have enough space? And how do I end? What if I just am done? Like, I'm done Evernote, I'm going to go now. How do you actually close that? But how can I close it in a way that is respectful for you? Oh my God, if you remember, did you have to deal with AOL here? Oh, you're so lucky. AOL somehow convinced my mother, who is 77, that she needed to be paying like $15 a month for like 10 years to use an email account. And I finally caught on to the fact that she needed to do that. And I had to call 3 times to get it canceled. There was nowhere on the site to make that easy. And it made me hate them. Hate. I felt so angry because they had taken advantage of my mother, who didn't know any better, that AOL email is actually free and that she was paying for something she didn't need to be paying for 10 years. I was so mad. But then they made it so hard to cancel. And then when I called to actually finally say it, they kept trying to upsell me. Even though I said, I'm canceling, no. But wait, there's more. And I'm just like, don't do that to people. It's terrible. And now I'm sitting here on a stage and telling you how terrible they are, right? So, word of mouth. Don't do it. Be respectful of people in the end. They may come back to you. Make that a really pleasant experience. Say goodbye and learn from that. And then offer them to come back later. But don't hold on to them so badly that they actually really start to hate you and you lose all sorts of respect from them as well. I didn't realize I felt so strongly about AOL until I talked to you. Thank you, that was very therapeutic. Okay. One tool that we use in our business is journey maps, and I'm teaching a masterclass this afternoon about that, if you're interested, which is really around how do you start to see what that end-to-end experience is. So you know the flips, the little flip book? It's almost like this, but now it's in a journey. It's just like in the movies when they make storyboards before they actually build the movie. They say, these are the scenes, these are the characters that are going to be in each scene, this is the settings, this is the mood, this is what's going to feel like, and everybody can see end to end, and everybody in your business can go, okay, we all agree that this is what it's going to be, and then you can start to execute against this. Excuse me? Ideation. Now, ideation would be when you're generating lots of concepts. This can be a place where you capture those things. So you can use a journey map to capture your current state. Do you actually understand the experience that your customers are having today with your product or with your service? How do they learn about it? How do they acquire it? How do they use it? So we do current state maps to try to capture what's happening today. And then we find out where all the pain points are, and we say, we need to fix this, we need to fix that, we need to fix this. And it just gives everybody a visualization of what's going on. But then we also create future state. This is where we're going as a business. And you can start to say, when you do a future state map, you can start to see, we already have some of these things done. We don't have that done, that's not done, that's not done. And those all become projects that you can start to do. You can also start to use these maps to start to bring in all of your analytics and all of your data that starts to tell you what are the key points that you're measuring in this experience that tells you we're good. Sometimes we're measuring lots of stuff, but we're not measuring the right things. And so this kind of starts to help tell us if this is a really key moment for us with our customers, we better be measuring that we're doing that moment right. Yeah? This is my pep talk. You can do this. Do you feel it? Just be deliberate. It's okay that you're not a designer. It's okay that you've never done this before. If you decide that you want to do this, you can. I'm not standing up here saying, and now you need to hire Meld Studios to do this for you. We certainly can work with you, bitch. However, as a human, as somebody who's now going to be the recipient of the things that you're putting out into the world, I want the things that you're putting out into the world to be good things. and things that make my life better, not make my life more complicated, not make my life full of things that I don't need. So as a human, I'm asking you to be thinking about who you're designing for. Work with them. Work with your people in your company as well. We forget about ourselves a lot when we're making our products and services. But if you don't make things that your people inside can actually deliver, it's going to fail eventually because you're going to burn out. It's not going to last long. And if you design for services, you will definitely be designing for experience. That's the last slide. You can do this. There you go. Do we have time for a couple questions?
Yes, we're going to open the floor for Q&A. So anyone who has questions, raise up your hand, and I will pass the mic to you.
Okay.
I'll be here first.
I have one question and one suggestion.
Great.
The question is examples of companies that have embedded customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
The suggestion is, I like the framework you made.
Yes.
I think we should put it online and then ask people to crowdsource the different sections and use case studies on them.
I did not plant you in this, right? We've never met before, right?
Never, no.
Okay, I just wanted to say, because that's exactly what I want to do.
Nice.
See?
Okay.
I love that. I've actually created a, so even though like I'm up on stage and I'm telling you all the things that I know and I'm doing, I still have a whole bunch of personal anxiety around. I'm still improving my craft every day, and I'm still trying to get better, just as every one of you are trying to get better. And so I've written about this. I do have a thing on Medium about it. However, I've started a Slack channel for service frameworks. But now you've inspired me to actually open it up to the public, because I'm the only person in it right now, which is, kind of defies the whole point of Slack. But I would love that, because I think that there's so many different, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the framework, but I think the examples that everybody could be bringing, especially from different parts of the world, would be super valuable. So I will post that.
You know Trello?
We could do Trello as well.
Yeah, like Trello for every board.
Okay, I'm going to start with the Slack first, because that'll be a nice entry, and then we can go to that as well. But in terms of examples of companies that have embedded customer design or customer experience into what they do, in terms of large organizations, I think that IBM is really quite interesting in what they're doing right now. Not only are they rethinking the way that they create products, they're also rethinking the way that they work. So they've actually started a whole design thinking team internally to try to actually change the way the company works. And they have interns come in and actually go through a process and then go back out into the business. So I think that I really respect what they've been doing with design. There's other organizations. We're working with a large pharmaceutical organization that's actually trying to shift the way that they work as well, which is, it's a very highly regulated space, but they recognize that they do more than just create the drugs themselves. There's a whole bunch of experience around that, and so how do you work with patients and the people that care about them? There's a lot of financial institutions, especially in Australia, that are doing that. I think there's some in the States as well. Financial services have done a lot with design lately, so it's interesting to watch them. I think the cautionary tale I have is that sometimes these large organizations try to, they set up design as almost a policing unit. Are you doing human-centered design, and have you followed the checklist? And then the people start to feel like, I'm just doing something because it's a part of the checklist rather than I'm feeling it and I understand why. So I think there's some tension there, yeah. But the smallest, we started as a 3-person company, we're now 29 people, but we've had to use this for ourselves as well, right? So it can be one person doing it as well.
Hi, could you please share with us, like, when you're saying that there's tension within the companies, that is the whole thing about you saying about the whole policing thing? Could you just like elaborate a little bit more, like
Yeah,
what happened and like a good outcome or a bad outcome? And, yeah.
Well, the company I will remain unnamed because that's the respectful thing to do. But it's a cautionary tale because they had built up a huge human-centered design part of the business. Any kind of new improvement or to any product or service that was in the business needed to go through a human-centered design process. So they had designers who would come into these product teams and were almost policing the process rather than getting the product people to actually understand that this was good business. And so what ended up happening is that they ended up feeling like overhead rather than value, and they pulled the team out. And so this is still a company that desperately, this is a telecommunications, they desperately need design, and they're starting to build it up in different ways. But I think there's also, the other cautionary tale is there's not necessarily patience within some of these larger organizations around, they just want to say, start up the design team and we'll start to do all these sprints and we'll start to work in this agile way and, lean and Six Sigma and, like whatever flavor of the week process you want to play. And they want to roll it out quickly and they want to okay, it's been 3 months. Have we changed as a business? Are we different? And it's like, well, this is a cultural change. This is not just process improvements, right? So I think part of it is when we talk about, when children are growing up, there's a height and weight chart, and you kind of have a view of, I kind of know where you should be generally on this trajectory of growth. So when you're 7, you should be around here, and if you're not, that might make me think that maybe something's going on and I need to check. I almost want to be able to create that for the maturity model of CX, sort of like, what should you start seeing in 3 months, in 6 months, in 10 months, 12 months, that gives you evidence that we're actually on the right path, and then lets all of your executives feel like, okay, this is like, I can see progress and feel like things are changing. So I think being able to measure where you are to where you're going is a critical story to be telling as you're going along. But it's still something to figure out, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Hi, Janna.
Hi.
It's a really good talk. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
it. Just wondering, currently we are in the development phase and designing phase, and we're using a lot of frameworks like this. It's just one problem that we very often occur. Designers are using phrases like customers don't know what they want to justify their new ideas, even though our A/B testings or our research clearly states otherwise. So what do you think about this? Do they really not know what they want?
That's called ego.
Yeah.
We all have ego, and I think part of it is when you're working as a team, you need to figure out how to leave ego at the door. So the thing I always say is art is for yourself, it's an expression of yourself, and design is for the sake of another. And what's difficult is sometimes we're making things where we feel like we're one of the people we're making it for. So we're like, I'm designing for myself. And it's, you're not, because you can't be, because you're in it in a different way. And so I think part of it is, in those instances, this is where having that insight and having that constant contact with customers, where people can say, you have information to point to, and it's either hard data, like quantitative data, or it's qualitative data that you've codified within your business to say, we believe this is true. And so I think part of it, so ego, and people need to prove. And the thing is don't decide inside your little business. You say, let's let them tell us. So take it back out to customers. Don't try to argue internally with what's right or wrong. Just say, let's go take it out and we'll see. Like, let them decide. Stop trying to decide everything inside yourselves. Yeah.
Currently, our approach has been, okay, we still push the product live and let the result tell us. Is this like really a common practice? Like just try to push it and we'll see how it goes.
Look, so I always say that there's two ways to approach it. You can either do insight-led design, or you can do hypothesis-led design. Insight-led design is where you go out and you try to gather as much as you can, and then you start to make design decisions based on what you know. Even then, you still are testing out your outcomes with people to make sure. And whether you're doing that live or whether you're going out and you're doing a test, you're still testing that stuff. If you're doing hypothesis-led, it may be, you know what, you've been in this industry for a long time, you've seen a lot of stuff, you have a good gut feeling for the thing you're trying to solve for, so you make it and then you put it out, but you're testing it. So even if you involve no customers, you're still involving them live, but you're involving them at the end when it could be really expensive for you to go back. That's the problem with hypothesis-led design, is if you're waiting until you've created something to test it, you may go, well, I can't, you may have created something that nobody needs or created it in the wrong way, right? And you can't rewind back, and now you've invested so much time into this platform and this app, and you're now trying to make the square fit into the hole, and you're just trying to make it work, rather than if you would have just taken 5 minutes to talk to people, you may have had a little bit more information to sort of round those rough edges. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Hello, test. Hi, Janna.
Hi.
Thanks for the framework, because I've seen the journey from the start to the end of the product. So are there any how do you acquire more customers kind of segment in the chart? Are you planning to add that?
Oh, in the
flip chart.
Oh,
which
in
you
the flip
shared
chart.
just
So I think that would be around how do people know in that first phase. And so that's in terms of how do you create awareness around what you're doing, and maybe you're doing that in different ways for different segments or different audiences. So I would think it would be part of that
the sign-up
upfront
part, right?
pace, or just the awareness part of it. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. But you can join the Slack channel and you can add that in. See, I like that crowdsourcing. Yeah. Sorry.
Hi, Janna.
Hi.
I have a question. How is designing services and designing experiences relevant in today's marketplace, when it's becoming more and more virtual? You have no control over who's delivering your products and services. It's no longer personal sales, and there's less personal touch.
Yeah, so I think it's a really good question around what the value chain is, and where, if you're creating products that other people are selling for you, part of the thing is that it has to almost speak for itself, but also that how can you be actually engaging with the people who are selling your product to help them. I mean, you do this, if you think about grocery stores, people will go, you'll see people sort of like who are in the chip aisle or in the cereal aisle, they'll like be just trying to decide where they want to position stuff. Like, they don't work for the grocery store, they work for the product, but they're still trying to come in and shape, at least control a little bit of how it's displayed, even though they can't control all of it. But I think that has to be part of, like, if you know that you're not delivering direct to people, you have to figure out, well, who are you partnering with, and how does that fit into what you're selling, and do you have to overcompensate in other ways to make up for the things you can't control? Like, if like Apple can't control necessarily who's delivering a package to your door, but they can to some extent because they make agreements with these companies and they have set standards of, you know, because they know, like, I don't care who delivers it, I'm still thinking Apple's delivering my phone to me. So this is where the B2B part, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of when I have to work with a whole bunch of people in my logistics chain. Those people who are delivering services are part of a logistics chain. They're under huge stress right now because they know they need to differentiate their services to you as a business. So you can demand more from them because they know it's a big marketplace now and there's other people that you can go to. So I think you can have that conversation and not necessarily feel beholden just to what they're delivering because they're trying to get better as well.
Hi.
Hi.
Janna. Okay.
Hi.
I want to ask, it's about, I'm involved in the services business related to energy. The environments normally right now, people really go into the technology-centered as a solutions. How we want to change that into the human-centered solutions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great question. So the question was around how, like, lots of people are sort of going straight to the technology solutions and how do you get more to the human-centered solutions. So in large organizations, I think IT organizations are having to change a lot because IT is tired of just being like order takers. They actually want to be influencing where the business is going and how they're actually engaging. So it's a huge opportunity for IT now to be working in a different way, to actually be working with the business to understand as a business, where are you trying to go? What are you trying to do? So in those larger organizations, I think you're starting to see a shift in how IT is working, but it's a big shift to make. This is why, as a company, we're solution agnostic. So that means when a business comes to us and they say we want a different experience for our customers when it comes to whatever, it could be a digital solution, it could be an in-person solution, it could be paper-based, it could be, we don't care what, we want to pick the right solution for the need rather than saying, if you come work with us, every service is going to be digital, right? Because sometimes that's not the right response. So I think that's the tension is sometimes we want to make the technology work for us, and we always have to be asking why. So we actually do a lot of work with our journeys. A lot of companies are having us do the journey of the customer, and then they're using that as a blueprint to give to their CRM. Like if they're getting a new CRM or they're getting a new technology platform, they use it as requirements. Your system has to help us do these things rather than you tell me what your system can do and then it's the other way around. So there's a lot of different angles that need to happen, but I think part of it is if somebody is dead set on a particular technology solution, it's going to be an app. Like, you have to kind of wind that back and try to get earlier in the process, or you need to ask them why. Why an app? And as much as I love apps, apps are not always the solution, necessarily. Yeah. I think we're...
Over here?
Okay.
Hi, Janna.
Hi.
I'd like to ask, upon insight-led journey mapping for the customers, let's say we will go over and have chat to understand truly what's happening and what are their needs. Usually they are very used to the same old way.
Yeah.
So what are the effort or challenges that can be done in order to facilitate a smoother shift among their same old way to the new experience that we are providing?
That's right. I think the first question, so the question is around, I always do it this way, and now you're trying to do it in this other way, and we're, as a business, trying to shift you towards our way. The first question is, the way that where you're trying to get them to, is that the right place to be, right? So are you making change just for the sake of change, or are you making change because actually it will get a better outcome? And if that's the case, then you have to think about, my future state is here, and I may need to sort of nudge you over there. I either need to go, I don't know if you have this show here, but The Biggest Loser. this is such a American and Australian show. So it's people who come in, like, they try to lose like lots of weight really, really fast. And so I actually use that as an example with my customers. I say, are you trying to get to your future state in like 3 months? Do you want to lose 150 pounds in 3 months? So it's like you're going to the gym 12 hours a day, and it's like really intense shift. Or are you trying to lose 150 pounds in 3 years? And so we're trying to slowly get you there. So I think part of it is, are your customers ready to be there yet? If they're not ready to be there yet, can you slowly start to shift them there? Or do you need to force them to go that way? And if you have to force people to go a way that is against where they're used to, you have to really convince them that, you know, it's worth. I mean, I remember when I got my first, I was never going to get a mobile phone. I don't need a mobile phone. People don't need to call me wherever I am. And now, like, I'm like, I can see my phone when I can't live without it. So I think part of it is that, how much do you need to shift them? And that's also, you're designing for behavior. But you have to make sure that you're designing it for the right reasons, you're shifting for the right reasons, and it's really what is needed. Yeah.
Cool, we have time for one last question. Right.
This stage is amazing. I think you should all come up and stand on it, because it just feels weird. Yeah. Like
Hi,
floating.
Janna.
Hi.
It was a good talk.
Thank you.
You mentioned about pharmaceutical industry.
Yes.
So I have a question regarding that.
Yep.
When I think about I'm a pharmaceutical consultant myself.
Okay.
So when I think of pharma industry,
Yeah.
it's a bit dry and very serious type. So other than cover design, where do designing come in the industry? So if you could give me an example.
Yeah, so I think it's around, you've got a product, a drug, that has to be consumed or used or injected or something like that. And there's experiences from when I'm told I need to have that medicine, to when I need to get it from a pharmacist, to when I'm at home and I need to integrate it into my life, to when I need to change it. And those are all things that you can be doing. You could be doing things to help people use things in a better way, or to stick with it, or, you know, so I think it's around, that's part of the service. Patient experience, yeah. But not just patient, it's also pharmacist, physician, family support. You know, what does it mean when my child has to do something, or when my partner has to take stuff? How can I support them? What can you be doing to help it make it easier for us and our family to support them? There's more things, and I think this is not just true about pharma, this is true about everybody, is that you're having to differentiate yourselves in a very commodified, competitive landscape. And so the experiences and the services around the products, people may be willing to pay more because you've got that. Yeah. Great. Thank you, everybody.
That's all the time we have. Thank you so much, Janna.
Thank you.
And also, Janna has a workshop happening later at 4:30 in Malaysia Room called User Journey Mapping, right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, that's happening today at Malaysia Room at 4:30. So feel free to sign up for her class. Yes, another round of applause for Janna, please. Right, that's all for this session. I think it's lunchtime, so you can go to the food session and everything, and give us back the survey form, and as well, if you guys brought in your coffee cups and everything, do bring it out with you guys and throw it to the nearest rubbish bin. That's all for today. Thank you.